Hari Om. Chapter 15, verse number 17. Here we are told that Bhagwan, or that absolute Purushottama, Param Tattva, the essence of all beings, is neither perishable nor imperishable. Although it was mentioned that's in the 18th verse. In the 17th verse, Bhagwan is saying, Uttama Purushatvanya Paramatmedyu Dyahritaha Yo Lokatrayamavishya Vibhartyat Vyaya Ishvaraha. I am the highest self, the indestructible, who pervade all your three states, the three worlds it's called, Lokatraya. But it's like as if we are living in three worlds at the same time, Loka, that is waking, dream and sleep. But the waker, when he wakes up, is the same as the one who had slept or dreamt. That one unchanging self was there throughout the state. So Bhagwan is saying to Arjun that look, there is something which is unchanging, which is indestructible, imperishable, and of course it is totally unaffected by all the noisy ups and downs of the jiva. It's the jiva in the body who is experiencing all this. Now, the example given was that of in a dream, who is the one who is dreaming? So if I have a dream where I am parched in the desert and then the night falls and the moon comes out and the wind is really nippy and chill in the evening air in the desert, and I light a fire and I feel the warmth of the fire as I draw closer to it, and I sense the silence as the camels go to sleep in the desert around me. Who is experiencing these sensations, these experiences? Then the second question to be asked is, I as a dreamer, where was I? Where in the dream? Was I in the light of the moon? Was I in the warmth of the fire? Was I in the dry, parched desert of the daylight desert? The heat? Where was I? You say dreamer. Oh, the dreamer was everywhere. Exactly. The dreamer is everywhere, pervading every part of the dream. That is exactly what the whole issue is. That you cannot distinguish the dreamer from the dream, and you can't say that, oh, I don't see the dreamer, so was he in the camel? Can I make an altar in the desert and make a temple and say that the dreamer resides here? Not at all. That dreamer who was me was my mind and my thought, which pervaded everything. It is on my mind that every grain of sand was created, every sensation of heat and cold and comfort or discomfort was created on the substratum of my mind. So I pervaded. I, as a dreamer, pervaded every atom, every inch of the dream. Exactly in the same way we ask, where is God? Now, God as a creator is in everything, is the substratum. Because the example here makes it starkly clear to say I can't be in one part of the dream and not in the other, because I am the dreamer, I pervade it. I am just the presence in the whole thing. Okay, then who is feeling the sensations? When you wake up, do you feel the heat or the cold or the burning of the fire or the chill of the desert night air? No, the body doesn't. The waking body doesn't. Okay, then who felt the sensation? It was the jiva of the dream. So I was a dream person and now I am a waking person. My dream personality experienced everything. So Jai, Parajay, Labh, Alabh, Ninda, Stuti, praise, blame, ups and downs and loss and profit and hate and love. It is that dream personality that experienced everything. And when I wake up, I say, hey, I'm not touched by it. I pervaded every part of it, but I'm not touched by it because it doesn't affect me. Exactly in the same way, consciousness is part of us. It is powering our existence. This sansari existence is like a dream. and he is powering it. He is everywhere, and yet he is untouched. How can he be touched by it? So this example makes it very, very clear when Bhagavan says that Lokatraya Ma Vishaya, you will find me in all your three states, but I am unchanging, waking, dream and sleep. What does he mean? He is trying to say, if you are looking for evidence, here I am. This is my manifestation. Arjun, please recognize me. If your attention is only on the dream part, which is the sensation part, the experiences part, what that the jiva is going through, then the mind doesn't lift to say, who is powering my dream or my sansar, whichever example you take. And then, Arjun, please lift your mind and see, I am there. See my presence? I am right there. So it's like the sun. It's like the sun who is asked that, do you want to see darkness? And he says, yeah, sure. And the cave is his friend. And the cave says, come, I'll show you darkness. And the sun goes into the cave. The moment the sun enters the cave, when the sun enters, how can there be darkness? It is a contradiction. Sun and darkness are contradictions. So, sun does not know darkness. Sun does not know anything except light. In the same way, it is the dream, the dream jiva who knows ups and downs. The dream jiva, if I had a bad dream or a good dream, the dream jiva knows the praise and blame and comfort and discomfort and praise and also loss and profit. But the consciousness doesn't know it. In the same way, my jiva in this sansar knows a lot of differences, a lot of diversity, a lot of change. Consciousness knows no change. So suppose in my dream I had become completely withered and had died. You know, sometimes we have a dream where we ourselves have died and somebody is attending our funeral. So when I wake up, I'm not affected by it. It was a dream. In the same way, I saw the change of my body in the dream. So consciousness knows no change. It knows no differences. It knows no diversity. It knows no distinctions. The way we discriminate between people and things and nations and nationalities and races, the consciousness knows no such differences. It's like the sun walking in very innocently into the cave and saying, you told me there's darkness here, but I don't see it. Because darkness is not the nature of consciousness. It can only know light. Therefore, for whom is all this trauma, these tribulations, the ups and downs and the hate and the love and the struggles, for whom? It's for the jiva only. And therefore, we must understand that this jiva is temporary. The jiva means my body, my mind, my intellect, and my temporary span of existence on this earth. That is all. That personality knows all the trials and tribulations and all the struggles. Consciousness, my consciousness, that's also me, that's my Bhagwan, that's my true nature, does not know any change. No differences, no ups and downs. Therefore, Purushottama is the absolute. It's called the absolute, the colossal, the mighty. And it is only one. It is only one. You cannot even divide it up. It's like saying that radio waves are there. I'm going to chop it up and share it with my neighbor. No, radio waves, anyone who tunes in can tune in. You can't chop it up. You can't chop up electricity. Of course, you can stop it and start it. That is the limitation of the example. And Wi-Fi waves, nobody can chop it. It is one indivisible, constant, a colossal, mighty presence. Where is it? Now again we can't ask that question, where is it? Because we are living it, living through everything. Everything we experience is because of that. Every bit of my dream that was possible was because of the presence of me. I was the dreamer. If I am not the dreamer and I am not dreaming, then there is no dream and there is no presence. Nothing happens. So when I am dead, in the same way, and the consciousness leaves me, I have, when I leave the body, my consciousness which goes is completely divine, pure, untouched, and just as it was before. It's like me saying, oh, I have broken my internet device here, my modem, and my computer is also malfunctioning because there's a lot of malware in it, and I have downloaded some very bad software like Kama, Krodh, Madh, Lobh, Moh in my computer, and that virus is causing me a lot of problems. Okay, so shut down the computer. It doesn't work, it's okay. Modem is crashed, it's okay. Wi-Fi remains untouched. It says, okay, bring another device, I will power it. But it makes no difference to me. Wi-Fi cannot be disturbed or damaged by any software malware that we have, which is a virus in our computer. That is in our jiva. In our jiva, any malware or virus, that is the 6 vikaras, it cannot be touched. That consciousness. What is the phal? Naturally, it must be occurring to Arjun saying, okay, now I know the truth, that there is Prakriti and there is Purush, there is matter and that there is spirit, and I am associating too much with the matter part of me. But if I know the truth about the highest, the truth about the consciousness being me and pervading the entire universe and everyone else, so what? So what is the phal? How does it alter my life? How does it change my life? So Bhagavan says in the 18th verse, first he explains whether he is perishable or imperishable, and then goes on to say how it will affect his life. Number 18. Yasmaksharamati toham aksharaadapi chottamah atosmi loke vedecha prathitah purushottama. I am neither perishable nor imperishable. So don't even, Bhagavan says, now that you know about matter and spirit, don't try and put me in any one part and say that, okay, so you are imperishable. I am neither perishable nor imperishable. I am just am. So therefore I am declared as the Purushottam, the highest Purush, and also the knower of the Vedas. So this verse actually talks about the conclusion of the manifestations, that we can see the Purushottam everywhere around us, in us, his presence is there. And then the question in Arjun's mind, so what is the phala, the result of knowing this truth? Not everyone knows the truth, because not everyone is exposed to the truth, either through scriptures or through any kind of exposition, normal kind of lectures, or even the sanskaras of some homes where people, as normal knowledge, they explain certain things. No sanskar in the house, and definitely no exposure to this knowledge in the schools, in modern education. And therefore, if I come across this knowledge and I come to know that this is the highest, so what? What is the fruit, the phala? So Bhagavan says in verse number 19, Yo mamevam sammudha janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. First result is that such a person loses his delusion that this is all real around me and I am this matter living through this existence of Naam, Roop and my Audha and my Pad and my achievements and my status. All that I will suddenly realize is really not me, because it can be snuffed out in a moment, and it is. Within a moment all this is snuffed out, and within months people forget even our name or our very existence. This delusion that we are living in, we become undeluded. Asammudha, very first result. So wouldn't we like to be free of our own delusion? And then the Supreme Purusha, the all-knowing, we begin to worship. Now by worship, again it's a loaded term. It doesn't mean blind worship. It means that we begin to identify. Instead of identifying with matter, we begin to identify with the spirit. Knowing this, we become free, because the spirit is free. The very nature of spirit is freedom. And therefore, I experience that sudden psychological untangling with the world. This is the result. Bhagwan says, yes, I'm giving you this direct phala. And wouldn't you like to be asamudha, detached, which means you can be detached, unmoved by, and be dhiraha, titiksha, patient in all the trials and tribulations of the world, because they will come anyway. That's the nature of sansar. It's nothing to do with us. and still we overreact to situations and circumstances and react to people. Why? So this shift in perceiving the world, how we perceive the world as just a passing dream, becomes our greatest treasure and our greatest strength. And that power we carry as a shield around us. Because in that shield of knowledge, no one in the world can knock us down. Because we have a shield. इसलिए कहते हैं ना ये Lakshmi Kavach. There are these common words used, in the prayers and bhajans and all, which I come across and say, oh, now I know why they use such words. So there is a Lakshmi Kavach. That means you recite this, do the japa, and trust in a certain god or goddess as a symbol of the highest reality, not as blind faith. And that kavach becomes your shield, your armor against a world which is in any case unpredictable. That armor we need. So Bhagavan says, see, this is going to be your armor, your result, your phala for knowing the highest truth. And then bhajate mam, such a person will worship me. That means identify with me. When we love someone, for example, in the world, what do? We begin to completely identify with that person's highs and lows and sorrows. Someone is very close to us and that person is feeling low. We are completely affected by it. We ourselves begin to feel the pain. We empathize, not just sympathize from a distance. That empathy touches us. Why? Because we are identifying with that person. So if something happens to my nation or my religion or my family or whatever I'm identifying with is going to affect me. In the same way, Bhagwan is saying, hey, look, if you identify with me, the highest truth, that consciousness, that powering energy, that pulsating energy through which pulsates through everything, that consciousness which is you, if you identify with me, what's the result? You then begin to know your own true nature. It's like wearing a mask, and for too long, if someone is wearing a mask, suppose an actor who is playing the role of Joker in Mera Naam Joker, Raj Kapoor played the role of a tragic clown. Means that his life was full of tragedy and pain, and he had to play the clown on stage. So if that role was to be played by Raj Kapoor and he put on that costume and that mask, if he identified with it for too long, he would come out of the role a complete wreck. But then he had to come out of the role, because then he knew that, oh, I am Raj Kapoor. I am not this role. Otherwise, I'll be a wreck. That's how we become wrecks in life. If you see people who sink into depression, of course, there are people who go through worse tragedies than others. And at the same time, there are people who can take a lot with a lot of steadiness. How? So the most educated people I have seen on television, they break down, and we have seen recent photographs, and they overreact, and there's such a lot of drama about things that they are affected by. So much of dramatic overreaction. At the same time, I have seen images of simple villagers whose homes have been destroyed, and this image sticks with me. And he is destroyed by floods, and his home is completely submerged in water, and this journalist lands up near him and he asks an insensitive question, how do you feel? And this image sticks with me because I've heard this simpleton, uneducated, unexposed to scriptures person say, Bhagwan ki marzi hai. I will take it as it comes. If he wants to protect me, he will. If not, it is also his marzi, because I am just flowing with him. Bhagwan ki marzi, ab wo jaane wo kya kar rahe hain. And there was complete, and he said it without agitation. And how come we are agitated so much? That means that knowledge is accessible even to a person who doesn't have to read the scriptures or needs to. It is a part of the sanskar. It comes either through previous lives or through our simple learnings which come in our Indian homes, from childhood and even in villages. It's just total acceptance, total flow with the, let's say, the karmic principle, total flow. It's okay, he said. Bhagwan ki marzi. That quietness on his face, I can never forget it. How does he come from? Because he is bhajati mam. That's the word used here. In verse number 19, such a person, bhajati mam, he worships me. He identifies with me and says, okay, unki marzi, I am part of him. मैं उन्हीं का अंश हूँ, पुरुषोत्तमा. And this is the greatest spiritual upliftment, let's put it that way. The infinite consciousness which is with us, we are only looking at it logically. Some people who are the bhaktas, like this simple villager, in bhakti, they have a direct connection with Bhagwan. It's so direct that sometimes we envy them, because we are struggling with logic and with argument, with rationality, with examples. Yes, show me how. Because our mind has been turned too much towards rational thinking because of Western education. Doesn't matter, this is the route we take. But bhaktas, yes, awe-inspiring identification with Bhagwan, saying, मैं उनका अंश हूँ. If he takes me, I live in his lap. If he wants to take me, it's his marzi. How does it matter? I'm his property. That's the beauty of their life. Now, I am completely immortal. I am avyaya and all-pervading. I don't experience it, but one example which I read about, I haven't read the whole Mahabharata, read about, was Yudhishthir being questioned by Yaksha, saying that it was a challenge. If you want your brothers to come alive again, you have to answer my questions, etc., etc. He asked him more than 20 questions. One of the questions he asked Yudhishthir was, tell me what is the most amazing thing, what is the most surprising thing about human beings? And Yudhishthir said, very rightly, the most surprising thing about human beings is that humans see death around them every day and every now and then, and yet they live as if they are immortal, and yet they want to be immortal. Everyone wishes to be immortal. कौन चाहता है कि मेरा देहांत हो जाए? Nobody. So the Yaksh said, absolutely right. This is the most amazing thing. But when I thought about it a little bit, I thought, why is it that the human beings feel that they are immortal? They never live as if मैं भी मरने वाला हूँ. When I know about death in my vicinity, in my community, among my relatives, everywhere, I can experience, or not experience, but know about death. But I don't feel as if I am mortal. Okay, so I thought about it and I said, maybe this is because we are immortal. Because the consciousness does not know mortality, does not know death or change or vikar or modification or disease. Therefore, that real me, the true me, is actually immortal. And therefore, I say, I never live as if I am a mortal creature that's going to die one day and etc. We are immortal. The true person. And therefore, this is a logic that occurred to me when I said, why do people live like that? Anyway, Yudhishthir's answer to the Yaksha was correct, and he was granted his boon, and all his brothers came alive. You know the rest of the story. Now, since we are immortal, we have to know how sukshma, how subtle is that truth. Because our senses are engaged in the outer world, that subtlety of the truth escapes us. And therefore, Bhagwan explains very gently, once again, in verse number 20, concluding this chapter, to Arjun, saying, look, I have explained the highest truth to you. Now you have to mull over it, think about it, contemplate on it, not only in your free time, but even when you are engaged with the world. I have offered the highest truth to you, Arjun. He says that in verse number 20. iti guhyatamam shastram edamoktam maya nagha edad buddhva buddhimana syad kritakrityascha bharata. Thus, Arjun, I have explained the greatest, the most secret science to you. Now by secret, once again, guhyatam means secret, highest secret. This word has been misinterpreted by many a Pandit and many a Brahmin in the past 500 years, just so that they retain the authority on this knowledge and not share it with the common man. This was their trick. They said, no, Krishna said and Vedvyasji said, this is a secret which has to be kept only with a certain very privileged class of Brahmins and that community, we can't share it. Why not? So here Guhyatamam is a misinterpretation. It simply means not easy to reach. Only the one who is a seeker, a tapasvi, who is seeking, who is a yogi, who is seeking with all his might through sadhana, through seva, through satsang, through mananam, through shravanam, doing all the efforts and yatan, is the one who will reach it. Without that effort, very difficult. Therefore the word secret. And therefore this knowledge actually had disappeared for centuries from the view of the common man because of this, let's say, malpractice of one sect and community. And then there had to be a reformist movement like Shankaracharya and Vivekananda and of course the Brahmo Samaj, Keshav Chandraji. All these were reformers. Reforming what? Sometimes we reform what is gone bad outside in the society, in our community. But this is reformation of their own religion. They had to step in. By reform we mean bring it to the doorstep of the common man. Everyone deserves to know the truth. Why? Because the truth is not about something else. The truth is about themselves. Don't I deserve to know the highest truth about myself, my true self, without the mask? Who am I? That who am I is my birthright. And therefore the reform movement and Adi Shankaracharya blazoned the way through, touching the north, west, east and south. And that's why this, wherever he stayed and created ashrams, is called Char Dham. This Char Dham is his effort to say north, west, east, south. I am going to make sure everyone has the privilege to know about who am I, the highest truth about themselves. So Guhyatamam, highest secret, Krishna says, Arjun, I have now imparted to you. It's all yours. This knowledge is yours now. Do what you will with it. Idamoktam maya nagha. He calls him anagha. Maya nagha means I have told you. Hey, anagha. What is anagha? Anagha actually means the sinless one. The one who is not capable of sin. This is one way of saying that only a mind which is purified from all these, the kama, krodh, vikars and all the viruses, what do we call them? Vikar, we call them mental diversions, we call them mental pollution, whatever you call it. We are polluting our mind, and that is the sin. So when we talk of sin, this is what Vedanta means. Kama, krodha, mad, lobha, moha, not a steady mind, totally attracted and disturbed by the world because of kama, desire for this, desire for that, I must do this, I must do that. We can do everything that's required of us for our family and nation and community, but with a steady mind, saying, I am offering the effort of my mind and body because I have certain mental faculties, I have a sound body, I can offer my effort to the family, to the nation, to the community, whatever, but I'll still keep a steady mind. That's my property, my steady mind, and I'll keep it alert and I'll keep it vigilant. If my mind is steady and alert and vigilant, it's not possible that in all the efforts that I do to help my family, to support my family, community, nation, job, my business, corporate, wherever my duty lies, then with that steady mind, I will not allow kama, krodha, mad, lobha, moha to enter. It's as simple as that. It will not enter. It's the kavach, it's the armor I have. So that steady mind and alert and vigilant mind, Krishna is now paid the highest compliment to Arjun, saying, Arjun, you are the sinless one, Anagha, and I have imparted this knowledge to you. This could also mean one more thing. It could also mean Krishna is trying to say that this knowledge will make a difference in the life of all those who are ready for the higher life and have kept a steady, alert, vigilant mind, or at least are striving towards it. And only those people will make any sense of this knowledge. Steadiness, hold on. The more we rush out into the world of people and circumstances and events, they're all happening around us. Don't forget, we are in a mela. We are in the midst of a mela. Krishna is not offering us a cave and saying, I'm going to put on soft music and soft lights and a nice gaddi for you and you can meditate on me. Krishna is saying, Arjun, you are in the middle of a battle. And in the midst of that battle, I want you, Arjun, to keep that steadiness of mind, that undeluded mind that you are not this body, and that alertness to remember who you are, and that vigilance to check when the mind goes into kama, krodha, mada, lobha, moha. We are in that mela, that battle. Arjuna is not offered a very nice ashram seat and saying, okay, this is your meditation corner and here are some nice books for you and nobody will disturb you, Arjun. No. Arjun, the challenge for you is, in the midst of the battle, you jolly well have to lift yourself up spiritually above all this cacophony and noise and disturbance and the distraction of the world. This knowledge, this Purushottama with Krishna, if Krishna is with Arjun, I'm reminded of a question Geha uncle used to ask sometimes after class, and it was so touching. He would say, Arjun had Krishna with him, so lucky. He had a guide and friend and master. He could probably never lose his way into materialism and delusion and ignorance and काम क्रोध. Arjun couldn't because Krishna is by his side. लेकिन हमारे पास तो Krishna नहीं है आसपास. So touchingly he would ask, and innocently. I didn't really have an answer, but the only one I had was that Krishna is not with us, but Krishna's words are. Why don't we take the highest inspiration from his words? Ved Vyasji has penned it down for us. If we don't take the effort to cling on to his words, कि उनके ये शब्द हैं, let me cling on to that. अगर वो नहीं मिले, उनकी बांसुरी मिल गई, उनके शब्द मिल गए, उनकी एक गीता मिल गई, let me hang on for dear life, क्योंकि कृष्णा तो हमारे पास नहीं है. But basically if you see, when you realize that, oh, that Krishna consciousness is with me, वो तो है ही है हमारे साथ, वो हमारे, we are sitting in his lap and therefore we are functioning. वो तो बाद में realize होता है, लेकिन पहले क्या होता है कि हमें क्या चीज पकड़े, कृष्णा नहीं दिखाई देते. पहले हम we are a novice, we are all novice seekers. पहले शब्द पकड़ लो उनके, बांसुरी पकड़ लो. There was one Swamiji who used to say, you can't catch the cow, just catch hold of the tail of the cow and let it drag you. Let it drag you. So it's like that scripture कि एक कोई श्लोक समझ में आ गया, दूसरा कोई श्लोक समझ में आ गया, बस वो पूंछ पकड़ लो and just let yourself be drawn into the scriptures. The example of a cow dragging us by the tail was funny. Anyway, now he says, what more do you want to be liberated, Arjun? You are liberated, and only your attention is on the extrovertedness, on the external world. Just shift the attention inward. And therefore, a person with such a steady mind and such a vigilant mind, such a humble mind, because Shishyasteham Tvam Prapannam was what he said in the beginning, means I am your Shishya. I put down my weapon and you have to tell me I am your Shishya. This kind of humility, I don't know, said Arjun. Krishna, you have to teach me. In second chapter, that humility is what Bhagwan is saying, that this steadiness, this shanta, this humility is the deserving mind. And such a deserving mind will absorb more and more of the knowledge. than the noisy mind. Of course, the noisy mind is also listening. श्रवण तो हम सब करते हैं, कितने कोर्सेज चलते हैं, but a noisy mind will maybe absorb a little less, and the knowledge will percolate a little less into our lives. Therefore, he says, Anagha, you sinless one, Arjun, you deserve this knowledge. You deserve to know the great truth. And by this, what will happen? In the second line, he says, Etat buddhva buddhimana syad. The advantage is that you will become buddhva, that is, you will become wise. Naturally, that's expected. What does wise mean here? Liberated. Liberated from what? From my own understanding that I am this body, and the moment I say I am this jiva with certain experiences and certain circumstances, मेरे ये circumstances है, मेरी family ऐसी है, मेरे finances ऐसे हैं, मेरा situation या मेरा achievements, all that I'm describing is the jiva. This ignorance about my true self is the only condition I need for sorrow. I repeat that. The ignorance about who am I, my true self, is the only condition of my dukkha. My dukkha comes because of this ignorance. Who am I? So you will be buddhva. Second line, he says, you will be buddhva. You will become wise, not deluded or in ignorance. And therefore what? Liberated from sorrow and agitation and restlessness, agitation. Some people think that being buddhiman is the same as being buddhva, wise. No, because a buddhiman person can be very clever, can have a very sharp mind in order to function in the world and to make the most of the world. कि मैं ये भी कर सकता हूँ, वो भी कर सकता हूँ, ये भी हासिल कर सकता हूँ, वो भी कर सकता हूँ. Yes, very good. Kudos to your ability and your capacity. But that buddhiman person who can be very clever in the world doesn't necessarily become wise. There is a big difference. Because if that was the case, then Hitler, highly educated, and on top of that, I was surprised to read that he was also a painter. His paintings are on display. That means he was artistic. Yes, he was an aesthete. To be an artistic, you have to have aesthetic sensibilities. A person with aesthetic sensibilities and sensitivity towards art. He was a painter, and yet he was the one who had engineered the death of millions of people. What about the people who worked for him in so many of these concentration camps? They were directed by highly educated engineers, because they couldn't have engineered that furnace where the bodies could be burnt. It's a horrible thing. I don't even want to describe it. 7 million people, where the gas chambers, the gas chamber had to be designed by an engineer, not an uneducated lout. So where did that education lead them? It did not lead them to goodness. That's the point he is making here. That cleverness and wisdom are two different things. Goodness comes only when you know the highest truth about life. So Tikshna Buddhi and Sukshma, subtle Buddhi, are two different things. Now, last, the flourish of a master stroke of Krishna is, in the end, he says, Kritya Krityascha Bharata. Once you know this highest truth, you are